Chapter 9. Telling the Family. Ron didn't seem deeply concerned about what his 3 children would think of me. They get on fine with their mother's second husband. No reason why they shouldn't like you, he said offhandedly. Besides, it's really none of their business. I couldn't take such a casual attitude when I thought of Vanessa and Peter and their families. I needed their approval and understanding desperately, and in fact didn't know if I could marry without it. The idea of telling everyone at once was too much for me. We'll invite them all to lunch at a restaurant, their spouses, and all the grandchildren too, was Ron's suggestion. When I tried to picture it in my mind, it was like a scene from Dante's Inferno. I didn't know how his side would behave, but I had no faith my son and daughter or even my grandchildren would just say congratulations and leave it at that. We always discussed things to death, even trivial things like whether I should install air conditioning. The pros and cons of that had taken weeks to finalize, with Peter getting quotations all over town and Vanessa comparing all the brands. They would certainly not accept a future stepfather just on face value. I convinced Ron to do things in 3 stages. First, we'd make a surprise party at the gardening club next Thursday morning. All the members were our friends, and we could relax knowing that they would be happy for us. Then we'd invite John and his wife Laurie, Fern and her husband Wayne, and Meg to a restaurant for lunch and announce it to them. If they would take it in their stride, as Ron was sure they would, that would be one obstacle out of the way. I decided to invite just Vanessa and Peter to come alone for Sunday lunch, without their spouses or children, to meet Ron. It would be a very emotional scene, I was sure, and my stomach turned over every time I thought about it. If it went okay, we could have a party for everyone later. The gardening club announcement was a delight. We waited until after Ron's talk on roses, the queen of flowers, which are steeped in history. In fact, by 3000 BCE, the use of roses in aromatics for cosmetics and embalming was well known to the Egyptians. Nero once spent 4 million sesterces, today $50,000, on roses for a single Roman festival. Ron's lecture centered on pruning rose bushes and how to extend the rose's life as a cut flower by cutting cleanly on the diagonal, stripping the lower stem of leaves, and adding an aspirin or drops of bleach to the water in the vase. After the talk, when Ron told them of our engagement, I'm sure I was blushing brighter than his crimson blooms. It was not such a surprise as I had thought. Several of the group said that they had guessed, but everyone was warm and effusive in their good wishes. The luncheon with Ron's children also went off well. John and Fern and their partners seemed quite happy for their father and were much better behaved than I expected my 2 would be. Only Meg, the single one, was very quiet, and I sensed she resented me and was probably mentally comparing me to her mother. She was the only one who didn't kiss me, and even though Ron said afterwards that she was not a demonstrative girl, I sensed a certain coldness. Women are more perceptive about these things, and I felt that there could be trouble ahead. I was glad her mother had remarried in case she had been harboring thoughts of getting her parents back together. I didn't know how to prepare Ron for the fact that my children would probably not take the news in the same way that his family had. It was terribly important to me that they should like each other. I knew he would expect to be my top priority in the future, yet I was so bonded with my children and grandchildren. I wouldn't be able to handle it if I were forced to keep making choices between them and Ron.